All right. Hello, everybody. This is another episode of Verbal Laxative, and with me, I've gotten the one of the founders back again, Hassan.
Yeah, hi guys. 2/3 of what is known as verbal laxative.
Yeah, so we got Sinsen and Hassan here. Jason is still in Japan. His whereabouts are unaccounted for. He's possibly kidnapped. You might never see him ever again.
And if you don't hear from him again, don't blame us.
Although I have a really strong feeling that he'll be back next week.
Hopefully.
Yeah, I don't want to jinx it. That would be terrible.
Yeah. Let's just say he'll be back. Hopefully.
No, okay, and then he'll have a lot of stories to tell us. You know, usually if you go on a trip, you should, you keep in touch. You keep on talking, right?
Yeah, like hey guys, I'm here now, or a pic from here, or a pic from there.
Yeah. I've heard nothing from him.
Yeah, no.
He could be dead, for all we know.
Or he could have just given up on us and just found a new life in Japan.
Yeah, found a new life in Japan. He's working at like the McDonald's on like. Hello.
He could be like what's Bruce Banner in the first Hulk, just living in he was living in Brazil or something, just randomly working in a factory.
Yeah, just finding his peace right in the middle of Japan.
I'm at peace. I could see Jason sitting in Japan somewhere.
No, he has to be kidnapped and bound somewhere, and he's shooting like adult AV movies somewhere. Anyways, I hope you like the new life.
Your ideas are a little bit more extreme. I'm hoping he has a simple life. He's chosen a simple life.
That's a simple life.
AV.
Yeah. You shoot you do a shoot, you get money. How simple is that?
Yeah. Well, we'll find out. If he's not back next week, we'll have to.
We'll know.
We'll have to start looking.
Yeah, and then I'll be browsing like the Japanese porn site, and I'll see a title with his his picture on the face, and I'll know. I'm like, oh, Jason, you're finally doing what you love.
What you were born to do.
All right, man. Let's have our little special today, our 2-man special, and we love to talk about all the shit that
podcast special.
Yes.
Nothing else is happening here.
Yeah, just a 2-man special. Lots of heavy breathing. All right, I'm not gonna date this podcast, but we are pretty close to the U.S. midterm elections. I'm not gonna say how close we are, but by the time this comes out, it might be over.
Yeah, most likely.
I'm not gonna make any predictions, but we'll see what happens, because it'll be kind of funny, because if we make a prediction now, and then we release it after, it already happens. We can see how big of an idiot both of us are.
I think my one assumption I can make is it's probably gonna be a shit show either way.
I think that'll be the most accurate statement that we could come out with that. But anyways, so just a little like, I guess, background information, right? Just for anybody out there that might be listening. So every 2 years, the House, was it Congress, the House, whatever. Those guys, they serve a 2-year term, so every 2 years they gotta vote for the seats in the House, right? For Democrats, Republicans, whatever, Congress, and then every 6 years is the Senate going up for election. So it kind of rotates a little bit. So right now I think there's only a third of the Senate seats that are up for election, and then that's how it kind of rolls in the U.S. system. So 2018 midterm elections, basically the House elections, and I think 1/3 of the Senate. Hopefully I got that right. But yeah, that's basically the deal. And then in the very near future, they're gonna have that. And I think the news are predicting. Well, I guess the polls are predicting that the Democrats will have like a slight majority, but then early voting right now kind of shows that the Republicans are going kind of strong. So I don't know. What do you think about that?
I don't know. Like I said, it's kind of like
it's all kind of numbers mumbo jumbo, and it's all just kind of like best guess.
Best guess, and these days with Trump in office, best guess is really the worst guess.
Yeah, I mean, like, okay, so what do you think, if the Democrats win the House, what do you think that would look like going forward for Trump, for the Republicans?
they'll get more pushback, but I don't think it'll change anything. Trump will still be Trump.
I kind of agree with that too. Yeah.
They'll get a little bit more resistance, more so than they have right now, but it's not going to be enough to actually, get Trump to resign or anything.
Yeah,
like that.
That's what I definitely think too. Like, what do you think? Like, one of the dreams that they are floating around is if the Democrats get enough seats that they could push for impeachment, something like that, something crazy like that.
That is a possibility, but then again, I mean, Trump they have grounds for impeachment for so many things for Trump.
Yeah.
So far, and nothing's happened. So I don't know if them winning the House will actually further that or solidify the argument for impeachment.
Bill Clinton got impeachment proceedings started. Well, the threat of impeachment came for him, and all he did was get a blowjob, right? And he lied about it.
Yeah.
And then now that's not even dead.
That's not even. This guy's gone, multitudes beyond that, and still people have been talking about impeachment. It's been brought up many times before, but nothing's happened. So I don't know. I don't think it would change. They'll bring it up. Yeah, we should impeach him but I don't think it'll actually get results or the result that they want.
I know, but like, what do you think this says about about the whole process, about like voting for these senators and I guess congressmen, like, just it doesn't matter in the end, really. Like, people, do you think, I mean, a lot of people still think it's a big deal to vote, and you can make some arguments for it, but it kind of seems that your vote doesn't really mean shit right now.
I've never really understood that part of U.S. politics, where like the general vote doesn't mean anything. Well, doesn't mean anything, but it doesn't really play to the trends or of what's expected,
Yeah, I mean,
like, they have so much mechanisms and mechanics going on in their political system. It's not just that, the people's vote results in someone getting elected. There's so many all kinds of confusing little mechanisms between the general populace voting and whoever gets elected.
I mean, like, yeah, and I think part of the reason is because they made a system where they don't trust the government. So then they make it every 2 years you get to vote for these fucking guys in the House, and then every year, every 4 years president, that sort of deal. The whole system that they designed initially is from distrust. So I guess, like, if you're making a whole system that's just based on you don't trust the government, you want to basically have all the leverage there to kick them out, can you really get any shit done at all?
Well, that's the thing. That's all coming to a head now. What is it? How long is this? 1776 to now. How many years is that?
Well, yeah, that's pretty much like almost 300 years then, right? You give or take
250-ish.
Yeah, you see kind of 60 days off, 60 years off, or something like that.
Yeah, like 1976 would have been 200 years. So yeah.
Yeah, so I guess.
And they haven't, like, it's always been, like, I said this before too, like, America's built on this ego of themselves.
Right.
Like, even in every movie and everything, America, the father telling the son, America is the greatest country in the world.
Yeah.
This is the only place in the world where you can do whatever you want if you set your mind to it. When all that is false. There's so many countries in the world where you can achieve what you want if you set your mind to it. You have the same opportunities as anybody in America would, as the average person in America would, or the blue-collar working person would. So it's just this distrust and then this overinflated ego since day one, pretty much.
Yeah, I think that would, if they ever needed a unifying idea, that would be it. I mean, like, they both think that it's the greatest country in the world, I guess, right? And then fucking anything contrary to that, I guess most of the people there, well, I don't want to generalize, but I'm willing to bet a large number just can't even fathom that idea. Like, maybe we're not the best.
We're not the best. No, most people can't. Like, anything you watch or anything, I know it's like sitcoms and movies are fake, but still
Yeah.
that ideology is there, that America is the greatest, and that must be existent in the general population, the regular citizens of the country, in order for it to get translated into media and stuff like that. Like,
yeah, I agree with that as well.
the simple fact, like, if you watch any other like British movies or British TV shows, even though they had their heyday of we're the best, but it doesn't come across in,
Yeah, I
in
think they had
mainstream
a pretty big shock
they
once
they had an awakening, or like a freaking
yeah, once they realized,
bullet to
like,
the head, and then they're like, oh, maybe we're not,
yeah, before the sun never set on the British Empire, and now it's like your little island.
Yeah.
It definitely sets every day.
Yeah.
Really fast for you.
And same thing with like Australia, Canada, all these other countries. You have the same opportunities as you would in America, I think.
Yeah.
An average citizen has the same opportunities, but they're not overinflated. They don't have overinflated egos walking around going, "Oh no, we're the greatest. We're the best."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then that gets translated into politics, and that's why the politics are a little bit more down to earth, whereas American politics have always been not even just Trump. It's always been a sensational kind of thing. American politics.
Yeah, and it seems to me like the world is kind of moving into I guess a new chapter where you get a lot of people that are going to be like similar to Trump getting elected in a bunch of other countries. And one country that comes to mind is actually Brazil.
Brazil, I was just going to say.
Bolsonaro, yeah.
Bolsonaro. Yeah.
So basically, he has been a senator in Brazil, I think, ever since they came out of military dictatorship. Well, he's always said crazy shit.
Yeah.
Like, he would be on talk shows or radio, and he'd say, like, back then, like, under military rule is great. Like torture. Fuck, that was some good shit. Sometimes it worked, and like, he's got elected now, and he's probably said worse. I guess if you were his opponent, you would probably think he's actually said worse things that Donald Trump could ever say. He first says that but first of all, some groups of people do need to be exterminated. That's what he said, right?
Yeah.
He's pretty much like, people exaggerate and do that. What's that law when people just resort to calling someone a Nazi? Is that Goodwin's law? You get into an argument with someone and eventually you call a guy a Nazi. You do comparisons with Nazis or whatever, right?
I'm not sure.
Anyways, I something like that. And then some people kind of go a little bit too far. Well, not too far. Some people kind of mischaracterize Trump and say, oh, he's fascist, he's a Nazi or whatever, right? He's not really. He doesn't really fit that label. You can say a lot of things about him, but this guy, Bolsonaro, he does kind of like lean towards that. If it was Halloween, he doesn't have to dress up with a swastika. Some ideas.
Yeah.
He's pretty close to that.
Trump is basically, like I said, like he's just a guy who found himself.
He's a spoiled rich
brat.
man.
Yeah.
That used to run a celebrity game show.
And he's never heard no. Like, nobody's ever said no to him. Basically, that's it. That's and he thinks he can get whatever he wants, which he is. Even now in business, he got it. Even though he doesn't, I mean, even if bankrupt 4 times or whatever, declared bankruptcy, he still makes the money. Here, he tried his hand at government. He got in, and even regardless of what he says, he's still in power. Like, there's no consequences for him, basically.
Well, yeah, I think nowadays people they don't really care about that kind of stuff, like what they say and how they act, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think people just fucking, I think they're just pissed off in general about a lot of things, so they're willing to get this guy. He's basically the biggest fuck you vote you can give to somebody that was in power previously, right?
Yeah, but this fuck you vote has just like during this run for the midterms, he's been going around talking about how he's turned the economy around and everything like that. Like, that's all. I mean, he could take some. Actually, I don't know. I mean, the economy was American economy was on the uptick even before Obama left.
Yeah, I think it's one of those weird things. Like on paper, if you just look at the numbers, it goes up or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But it hasn't really recovered ever since like the 2008, that whole fucking
the housing thing.
Yeah, that whole fucking shit storm over there, right? I mean, they couldn't even raise rates for, what was it, close to like 8 years before they started doing that again, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all of America's so in debt. All of it is on just borrowed money, borrowed time. There's Even if you get like little spurts of growth, I don't think it actually fixes anything in the long run. They have to do something to fix that. Their whole debt problem, their whole over leverage problem.
Well, the only way they're going to fix that is if they bring more trust into their politics.
Yeah, and well, the thing about, if you take credit for the economy, it's a double-edged sword, because it could also bite you in the ass once it goes down.
Yeah.
Right. Like you can't just say, oh, it's doing good, so yeah, I should take credit for that.
Especially if he's planning to be here for another 6 years.
Yeah, if it tanks, then that's one of the only things that would probably really fuck him up. Because right now he's a Teflon Don, nothing sticks on him. He's got he gets a lot of numbers just by himself among his base. But as soon as the economy hits a really big dip in the road, just a big fucking pothole, and it comes down, that's when he would be in trouble. Like, you can only bullshit your way up so much until your supporters start to feel the hurt in their like fucking pockets.
Yeah.
And I think that one of the things that could bite him in the ass would be probably the trade war that he has right now, starting with a whole bunch of countries, but most importantly, like with China, that trade war, because that's hitting at his base, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, most of the tariffs that came up, well, the retaliatory tariffs hit right at his base, like the agriculture producers, right? Like the soy, wheat, and I think most other agricultural products in like fucking Iowa and those states, right?
Yeah.
And those are the states that voted for him.
Pretty much.
So I think that's the only way that he would get a big hit.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I don't think any of the Democrats really have any answer for him at all.
That's what I'm saying. They're stuck. Like, even if they win the House, they're not gonna. I don't see much change happening.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm in agreement with you there. Like, even if the Republicans lost a whole shit ton of seats on this midterm election,
Yeah.
I agree with you. Like 2020, he still has a good chance of winning.
Mm-hmm.
And a part of it is people don't care what, like, CNN says. They don't care what they say.
Mm-hmm.
CNN, those guys, those news outfits are going to be really up against him. They hate him, basically. But that's just food for everybody that likes him. And even people that don't like him, I think people are kind of fed up with some of the bullshit coming from the news when they talk about stuff that doesn't really affect everybody's like everyday lives, but everybody, the normal, like the lower class people, working class people, they're feeling like they're getting fucked. News isn't saying anything to basically highlight their plight, so they're like, yeah, well, fuck you guys. What do you guys know, right? So I guess this has just turned into a news rant right now.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, I guess we'll see when the results come out, but it doesn't seem like there's going to be a big change either way.
No, but just if they do win the House, it's just a lot of like more filibustering, more just delaying everything that he wants to do. I guess that's good enough for some people, right? Because what was the recent thing that he signed that got everybody riled up? Fucking birthright.
Yeah.
Birthright citizenship. What do you think about that, first and foremost? I want to get what you thought about that before.
Let me see if I understand this correctly. The birthright was basically that if your parents are illegal immigrants, then
if you come to America and you have a baby, that baby's American. If it's born on American soil,
it's American.
Yeah, that's the gist of it.
So the kids are American of illegal immigrants.
Yeah, you come here. You not here. If you give birth on the
regardless
United
of
States,
regardless of their status, the
soil.
parent.
Yeah.
Regardless of their status, their offspring is an American citizen.
Yeah, if I understand it correctly.
Okay, so.
Which I'm pretty sure that's what it is.
I mean, it makes sense that, but then they're still deporting the parents, so you're still fucking up families. That's the thing.
Yeah, I mean.
And like, what are you gonna do? Like, the kids are what, 12, 13, 14, to put them in foster care. How are they gonna grow up after? It's one thing to grow up in foster care from, without even knowing your own parents. But if you've been raised with your parents, with your biological parents, you've had that family lifestyle, you've had everything, and then suddenly you're ripped apart from them and put into foster care. How do you think those kids are going to grow up?
Yeah, but from the other side, you can argue that that this is just inviting abuse, basically. If you allow people to come here, give birth, and their kids are automatically American citizens, then wouldn't it be obvious? They would say that people just come here by any means necessary, especially like to give birth.
Yeah, just to give birth.
And there's a whole industry dedicated to that, like birth tourism, where some pregnant women, where in other countries, they'll book a vacation or something to America just around the time when they're about to be due. Or, well, the U.S. usually won't let you come in if you're about to be due.
Yeah.
But some of them have these trips that they plan out, and there's even like a house set up that will that services you, that takes care of you during your stay to give birth in the U.S. I mean, that's because they do allow kids to be born U.S. citizens on U.S. soil, and they think that's a point of abuse, especially from, I guess, these countries that they don't want people coming in from.
Further south?
Yeah, most of them. You get some of East Asian countries, and from Asia, South, as well, South America, maybe Africa. I don't know.
But how likely is it that happens? Like, most of the kids are probably just from people who cross the border illegally, whatever, but they're living and they're not, it's not like their parents came in this birth tourism thing. Like, what are the chances? That might be a point of abuse. Sure, you're abusing the system by doing that, but what is the frequency of that abuse?
I think a larger point also will be, like, at that point, just think about, like, the moral standing of what your country is, right? America back then was, what was that motto that people attributed to the Statue of Liberty when you first came in from Europe? It was what? We'll take your sick
and your
whatever, huddled masses or whatever, masses, right?
Yeah.
I
don't know the whole
butchered
thing.
The ass quote. Butchered the whole quote.
It's written on the statue or somewhere?
No, on the statue I think it's just the date of independence. But
is it?
Yeah,
okay.
But it was like written in a poem and they attributed it to
right.
But basically the whole point is like, yeah, give me all your disenfranchised, all your freaking guys that are down on their luck in every other country, and bring them to me, right? Come to this country. You can make it big if you couldn't make it big in your own. So
that was a value which they themselves are disregarding now, basically.
Right. But one of the reasons they are disregarding that right now is they can't handle it anymore, right? They're nowhere near as strong as like a country or economy or even a society, you can argue, than they were back then, when it was this, the so-called beacon for, what was it, freedom or something like that? I don't know. Land of the free, whatever, land of opportunity, yada, yada, yada. Right? They back then, I guess, people didn't care about too much because the opportunity was numerous enough. Mm-hmm. People were making their own way. They were making enough for themselves. They didn't have to worry about. They didn't have to be angry at other people.
Well, yeah, and economy wasn't as I can't even say.
The integrated?
Well, no, it wasn't as complicated as it is now. You know, back then, you came here, you grabbed yourself a patch of land and you farmed it, right?
Right.
Mostly.
Yeah, a couple hundred years ago. I don't know if you can still come here.
You can't do that now, but that's what I'm saying. Like back then, and land was abundant because the population wasn't that much. Everybody had, you know, the ability to do. If you're willing to move out west, you were handed out packages of land, you know, by the government. So there was more opportunity back then. Now they don't have those kind of opportunities. But still, I think for the people that have made it to the country, for the people who only know this as their homeland, some consideration should be taken into place. Like these kids, especially these kids, if they're born here, it's not their choice. Whatever, even if it was birth tourism, it's not the kid's choice, right? Yeah. And either if you're gonna deport the parents, at least
deport the kids too.
Deport the kids too. I'm pretty sure the kids, if they were to choose between staying with my family or staying American, they would choose to stay with their family wherever their family ends up being.
But wouldn't that be an argument to end birth tours? To end the birthright by citizenship?
They could amend it. They could amend it. I mean, like,
but
then that's something that they have to put forth to their people.
I mean, if they ended birthright citizenship, then they could just send the kid back home with the family because they're not an American citizen, right? Maybe.
Yeah. But even if they don't end birthright citizenship, just send the kid back. Especially if the kid are under 18, send them back with the parents. Let them keep their nationality as American. When they're 18 or when they're 21, whatever is the age of majority, they can decide to, hey, mom and dad, you guys live here. I'm going back to America. Or they can be like, you know what? I have my American citizenship, but I'm gonna stay in this country, or maybe I'll end my American citizenship. And
I'm not 100% sure how it all works legally, but I don't know if they can deport an American citizen on those grounds.
Not deport, just you don't officially have to say deported. The parents are deported and the kids are going with them. You're not deporting them. The kids, like.
Oh, you just send them back?
Like, just send them back. No, you don't have to stamp their passports as deported citizen or whatever. Just say, because they're minors, they're going to stay with their parents until they're old enough to decide if they want to come back to America. I don't think
it's as simple as that.
Well, then it
should be. Even when I think it's a situation where even if the parents come to give birth here, they would rather the kid. A lot of them would rather the kids try to stay here somehow. Like they would want to stay here. Nah, fucking, I always say here. We don't live in that fucking country. They would want to stay there, even if they can in some way, just to stay there as a family with the kid, because of the recent caravan, the whole deal with the caravan is like they're trying to apply for like asylum basically, right? And they thought that, there's safety in numbers. Let's go all apply at fucking once, right? Show up right at the border. And it made a big spectacular event on the news.
But it hasn't even reached the border yet.
No, of course not. But you can see, like, especially on Fox News or something, you see a big horde of people showing up in the Mexican border.
Well, on Fox News you can see anything you want. I mean, Fox News will create dragons out there and say, "Oh, look, they're crawling across the border."
The American border. Yeah. They only showed up the Mexican border so far, but I don't know. I don't know if they're gonna show. If they're going to show up en masse at the American border either. But either way, I think Trump authorized like 5,000 troops to go to the border anyways.
And there's no guarantee they're going to even make it to the American border.
Of course not.
There's no guarantee, but it's just this thing that they've picked it up and they're going with it. Like, just like, if they were at the border, that's a different story. Yeah. But by the time they get to the border, in all honesty, if you look at it realistically, half of them are going to give up. Half of them are probably just going to like maybe even die or something getting there. It sounds bad, but I mean it's the truth. But these guys have just turned it into some huge story as if there's you know, as if they're already pounding on the doors, like trying to break down the imaginary wall that's there right now.
So what if they were there? What if that scene at the Mexican border was at the U.S. border instead? What do you think? What should they do about it? What could they do about it?
They could start processing them. Just start processing them
As
asylum seekers or refugees or whatever. Okay. And then if they fit their criteria, of course every country has some list of criteria. If the people that fit it, you let them in. The people that don't, then again, it's sad to say, but then they don't. Like, but you're still at least giving them a chance rather than just creating these headlines of we've got an army coming towards our border and oh no, they're all bad people and some of them might even be terrorists from the Middle East. How the fuck they got to Mexico to make it into
to go with the caravan?
I don't know how they did that, but like Trump was claiming that no, they're bad people and some of them might be Middle Eastern terrorists and stuff like that. Like, how do you know these details?
I forget.
These what was it? The alternate facts.
Yeah. Well, I forget who it was. I think it might have been Trump too, but he didn't even bother to say, or someone didn't bother to even say terrorists or anything. Like, they're like, oh, you know, because we don't want the. I think he basically said like, oh, because then a lot of Arabs would come in, and that's just it. It's just
Arabs, yeah.
And then, you know,
where are these Arabs coming from? Like,
you don't have to pretend. You don't even have to sugarcoat it anymore.
Basically, by Arabs we mean
anybody with a brown skin. Basically, even if you got a big, really dark suntan, you know, you might be.
You'll be Arab for a couple of days until it fades away.
Make sure you're not looking like that at the airport. But
don't go to Florida, basically, if you're white.
Fuck yeah, I guess so. I guess don't fucking suntan, or else you might not get back. But like, okay, so the thing is, it's not just Trump himself saying this. I honestly think he doesn't give a shit. He just says whatever the fuck keeps him as president.
Keeps him famous.
Yeah. There is a very big number of people in America right now, and all over the world, in some places, where they actually think like this, right? Like that's a sizable population that are starting to think we don't want more foreigners coming in. And when they see something like that, like, you know, a big caravan of people, which is such a big deal that now people are dubbing the U.S. midterm election as the election of the caravan election or some shit like that. It's a big deal. Like, people don't want to see that. It frightens them, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, what do you do about that? Like, if you think that's a problem, what do you do about that? And then if you don't think that's a problem, then, you know, if you're one of the people that says, hey, that does scare me, it comes, you know, like, seeing that, oh, fucking, the whole caravan of people coming in. What's the problem? Like, do you think like, there's a problem of just people having, just shitting on foreigners, or they're just worried about, they're just scaring the shit out of themselves?
I think
do they have a legit reason?
Again, this comes back to trust in the government. If they had trust in the government, then they would listen to the government and whatever they say. If they say, hey, this isn't that big of a deal right now, if it does become something huge, then we'll let you know. Then we'll figure it out. What right now is happening is just the media outlets pick it up and just sensationalize it. Everything that happens.
Yeah.
Like, literally, this caravan is like 2,000 miles south of the border or something.
Yeah.
2,000 miles, like what, 3,500 kilometers or something like that? That's like a huge ways of people just walking. It's not like they're going to show up at the doorstep tomorrow, if ever.
But so what about, like, if half of your country have this fear and discrimination against basically foreigners coming into that country now, what does the future look like?
The future looks fucked up.
It does, doesn't it?
the future looks fucked up. Again, we've talked about this before, even here. As long as my skin is brown,
yeah,
I get the question of, no, but where are you really from?
right.
And in America, that question is basically gone to the nth level of, where the fuck are you from? You must be a foreigner because you look different than me, you know?
Yeah.
Even if people have been there for generations, even like African Americans are just as American as any white American.
Right.
But no, they're foreigners, or this is not their country. That's what's on the minds of like most Trump supporters.
Do you think if that situation was at the borders of Canada, do you think the reactions would be the same?
No.
You think it would be different?
I think it'd be different. I think Canada's at least more accepting.
So let's just say
there are factions in Canada that are just as Trump-esque as Trump.
Do you think you think that those factions would grow in number? Do you think they would get more influence?
I don't think they would grow too much because we don't have the numbers to support their growth. Canada's more multicultural, I think, in terms of percentage-wise than America.
Right. Well, actually, I don't know.
This is just I'm pulling it out of my own.
Yeah.
Like, this is just a guess. I'm not. But I feel because.
Well, okay. Well, I know, like, the whole the makeup and the whole philosophy of Canada is a little bit different than the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
The U.S. is all about they want you to be American. Assimilation is the key word over there, right?
Yeah.
Like, you go to America in the hopes of eventually becoming American. Everybody else wants you to be American. Like,
and there's a definite set of criteria that makes you American.
Yeah.
Right? Like, whereas Canada
is multicultural in the sense where it's like it allows you. The trend is, I guess, if there was a word to describe it, the style is that you keep a part of the culture that you came from. Like, even in the form legally of citizenship, Canada allows multiple citizenships, right? You can keep your old citizenship. You are not really. Well, I want to talk about this too, because back then to now, it's not like you were supposed to be assimilated. It wasn't supposed to be a melting pot. It was they called it like a mosaic.
Yeah.
Right. Like, you're supposed to. It's a mosaic. You're not supposed to melt into one fucking distinct stew that everybody is
you're supposed to be distinctive in your own way, but you're still
Canadian. You make up part of the tapestry of
Canada.
Of Canada. Like, and you wherever you're from, and your culture, your country, whatever, you make up a portion of what it makes to be
basically
Canadian.
Canadian basically means that you're allowed to embrace your heritage as well. You don't have to, like, once you cross that border, it's not like all ties cut off.
Yeah.
I'm Canadian now.
Yeah.
You're allowed to be like, I'm Chinese Canadian, I'm Pakistani Canadian, I'm whatever.
Yeah.
Like, and if you say that, no one bats an eye. No one's like, well, what do you? Even not just Asia. I mean, even like most people, even white people, identify themselves as Scottish Canadian or Irish Canadian.
Yeah, it's allowed basically. Yeah. It's not even like people. Yeah, you're right. They're accepting of this is what Canadians say. Yeah, this is what it means to come and have citizenship in this country.
Yeah.
You're allowed to have your heart, I guess, shared between whatever places, Canada and
whatever your past is,
or whatever, right? But I do notice, like, recently, and it's been a couple of years now, that there has been a growing voice of mimicking what America is, which is a melting pot.
Yeah.
And they want to assimilate, and they say stuff like Canadian values, Canadian culture. You want some people on the political spectrum a little bit more farther right are saying stuff like that. Like, you come to this country to be Canadians.
Yeah.
And if you don't have Canadian values, if you don't have Canadian culture, you're not welcome, basically. First of all, what the fuck is Canadian culture?
Exactly.
What is that? Well, that just I've never found anyone that can give me a proper definition of that. Aside from what? Do you play hockey or something? I know it's sort of shallow, but if you think about it, what the fuck is a Canadian culture? I mean, the closest thing that I can think of the Canadian culture is literally just inclusiveness, which loops back to, oh, we're multicultural, we're including everybody, and we don't expect you to assimilate. It's just everybody include, everybody and wherever they come from, the differences, right? They make up the foundation. You don't have to smelt them down into one identity. Everybody to become Canadian.
You're allowed to celebrate your differences. Whereas in America, you're expeced to hide your differences.
Well, not really hide, but
not hide, but just you
scrub them away. Become American, kind of right?
Thing. Hey, well, before we got here, we used to be,
But American culture, even American culture, I feel like it's made up. It's made up of. It is an immigrant culture, right? Like the big things of America. If you think about it, like fucking pizza, New York pizza, right? Fucking hot dogs and all that shit. Even their versions of Chinese food. It's ingrained within American culture. Apple pie does not originate in America, right? Pizza doesn't originate in America.
But it's
the freaking sausage in the hot dog doesn't originate in America.
But it's labeled as American.
Right. Hamburger, it's in the name. It's not from America. Okay. It's from a region in Germany, Hamburg, right? But these things, it makes up the culture of America, and I think, to me, it kind of worries me when people in Canada try to frame it the same way, especially when we're not even, our histories are completely different. Our circumstances are completely different. You become this way as a country naturally. Like, these values, these multicultural, non-assimilating, but it's just like an inclusive Canadian culture value that comes from your specific history and how you got to where you are now. And to start saying we should assimilate and be Canadian the way Americans are American, that
then
might
we're
be
not being
problems.
Canadian. Then we're being American.
It just feels like my own opinion is there's a lot of fucking problems with that. But I think you can find a lot more Canadians nowadays that think that way. And they would have their reasons too, right? They would say, a country needs to have a shared culture, shared language, shared values, everything. That's what makes a country. Right? What do you think about that? First of all, that phrase.
I think our values are all shared here in Canada, regardless of where we come from. The fact that we accept the laws of this country, the fact that we follow the rules and regulations of this country, we all are Canadian. Like, we've accepted that. For me, that's what, as long as you abide by the laws of your country, you celebrate the freedoms and values of your country, then you're Canadian. Doesn't matter whether you want to be Indian Canadian, or Irish Canadian. As long as if you're in Canada and you're Canadian and you accept all those values and you follow the laws, then you're Canadian.
Some people, they don't even have the citizenship. They just, they're here on permanent residency, and you can just keep on renewing that indefinitely.
Yeah.
Too. And that, no one makes a big deal out of that.
Again, but still, fine by them if they feel like they.
My opinion is it's fine. It's completely fine if they want to do something like that.
Yeah, for me, it goes back again to they can keep renewing their permanent residency, but as long as they follow the rules of this country, and accept the beliefs and values that we espouse, then it's fine if you want to keep renewing your permanent residence and not actually get citizenship.
But let's just say, okay, let's just try to get some clarity on this stuff. What is the beliefs and values of Canadians?
I don't have the Charter of Rights in front of me.
No, well, not the Charter of Rights, but do we have a unifying belief and value?
Like I said, I don't
completely fucking
like
crickets.
I don't have the Charter of Rights in front of me. I don't know.
But does the Charter of Rights, does that basically is that the official outline of values and beliefs of Canada? Or
I believe so. I think you're getting too into it for me now.
See, the thing is, I bring this up because it seems like Canada could have fertile ground to have people that come up that are just like Bolsonaro, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not even saying Trump. I'm saying straight up Bolsonaro.
No, that is a possibility. I mean, that trickle effect, once it starts somewhere, it's happening all over the world now. So, I mean, Canada's not immune to that. It could happen here.
Right. And I was just thinking, like, what makes that that grow here? What is the fertilizer that makes some shit like that take root in a place, right?
Hatred and distrust.
It seems to me, I may be wrong here, but most of these problems that you hear around the world, you know, in America you have the new, you know, I guess the new really right-wing people coming up, right?
Mm-hmm.
In Brazil you already have that in Bolsonaro, and then, you know, UK you had UKIP, France you had who was that woman, and her party.
Whatever.
Le Pen,
yeah.
Like, some of these leaders, they themselves, you know, they are not really the really hardcore fucking right nativist type. Maybe they are just politicians that you can probably argue, oh, they just want to look inward looking, right? Like, Le Pen is inward looking. A guy like Nigel Farage, inward looking.
Nigel Farage, man, I hate.
Yeah, of course. I think
like, you got what you wanted, you got the vote, and then you just back off. Like, what the? Just like, hey, that's the most.
That's just right off into the sunset, right?
Seen, yeah.
Well, yeah. We'll talk about it in a bit, but back to my. I just want to say, like, these leaders, maybe they represent something inward, but a lot of their followers are these people that are really hardcore fucking to the really right, like bordering on what the old term for fascism was, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, that gets thrown around a lot, but fascism back then was basically like a rebirth of your race or civilization or whatever the fuck it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of weird because it's spudding up in countries that are supposed to be, you know, quote unquote, it's multicultural. Like, immigrants that come to these countries, like Britain, France, Canada, U.S., and Brazil, you know, had a lot of immigrants too, mostly from, you know, fucking Africa and some other places, and some, you know, they had a slave trade that was similar to America and elsewhere in the Caribbean. They sort of had, like, I don't know too much about Brazil's, like, fucking cultural makeup, but I'm under the impression that it's not like a monolithic culture. They got some diversity there too, but these people from the far right sprouted there, you know, saying like, I'm a leader for, you know, Brazilians. Bolsonaro, he's a fucking basically Brazil first, right?
Yeah.
I imagine Nigel Farage was a UK first type of guy. Le Pen, I don't know, maybe, you know, her message was basically France for France. Let's take care of our own interests, yada yada yada, and that got a lot of, you know, French guys to the really far right to come up.
But see, what gets muddled up in that is like, for example, France first. Everybody who's in France at that point,
yeah,
if a citizen, regardless of religion, sexual orientation, color, whatever, is France.
Yeah.
So then everybody's rights should be considered.
Right.
You know.
I think they have some other problems that we don't really see in Canada. Like, right now, France has, you can tell just from the news that comes out and filters all the way over here. It's usually something related to, like, Arabs or Muslim, the religion in general.
Yeah.
They have these rulings where you can wear the burqa, you can't wear the burqa.
Yeah. No,
et cetera, et cetera,
that's what I mean. Like, but those people who wear the burqa, they're also French.
Right.
So
but then they
if you're
argue
saying France for France, then those people should be included.
I think that's where you get into the part where, like, you're just fucking eating yourself, because France for France, these people are French, you gotta respect their right. But then these people would say that want to wear, like, say, a burqa for in places in France which it would be illegal. They say, well, it was my right as a French person, as a French woman, I guess, to wear this, right, or whatever. And basically the French state's saying no. And so like how do you like reconcile that where, you know, it's kind of a fucking circle.
It's a fucking circle, but the thing that starts that circle is when one group of people decides that they're better than the rest. It always goes back to race.
I think
so that's basically what has to get understood by everybody, is that we're all fucking equal.
Right.
If it's always the white nationalists or the whatever nationalists or the fascist, whatever, somebody thinks that they're better than the rest.
But you see where that argument goes towards. Like, I'm just using that as France as an example.
Mm-hmm.
In that argument where everybody's equal, wouldn't it be unequal if you allow some people to wear a religious garb where other people don't? Like,
no, but it'd be their choice. It's not like you're allowing everybody to wear their religious garb. Some people may choose to utilize that. Some people may not. That's it. The right isn't that we're allowing Muslim women to wear the burqa and other women of other religions to not follow their or wear their religious garment or something. The ruling should be that everybody's allowed to practice their religion and wear whatever is deemed correct in their religion. Now it's up to the individual people. You have the right to choose to do that. The country has given you the law or the ruling that, hey, you're allowed to do it. Now it becomes an individual choice. Some people may decide to do it, some people may not. So it's not like the ruling coming from the government is that only Muslim women will make an exception for Muslim women and let them wear the headscarf or the niqab. But the other women of other religions, we're not letting you wear your religious garment or something, right? This is a very simplified version, but the ruling should be that everybody is free to practice their religion.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure their laws are everybody's free to practice their religion. But then, you know, like it conflicts with their laws for security, saying that, you know, for a fucking, I think it was a passport photo or whatever, you gotta show your face. Everybody has to show their face.
Yeah.
And then the whole controversy comes when some people don't want to show their face for religious reasons, right? So, what would be the reconciliation for that?
Some places you have to make an exception, like a passport photo. You're not. I can see from like a religious point of view. Yeah, if the ruling is to uncover your face for the picture,
right,
for security reasons, you go ahead and do so. The whole point of niqab is like modesty or whatever.
Right.
But you're not gonna walk around with your passport photo showing it
right.
to everybody anyway, right?
Right.
So
like
your modesty would still be
for
intact.
something like that. I guess you should take it off just for the purposes of identification.
Yeah.
For like legal, I guess legal documents. Like if take it, you know, you should just take it off. You're showing it you're not showing it to anybody. This is for your, you know, like state ID, and then you go on with your life.
Yeah.
The way you want it after, right?
Yeah.
I mean, okay, so we got something similar over here as well. The whole niqab thing, but also we have this one where the Sikhs, you know, the guys who wear the turbans for religious reasons, right? I think Sikhs who ride motorcycles don't have to wear a helmet now because that would make them unable to wear their turban at the same time. So
really?
They ruled that I don't know if it's only in the province we live in now or if it's whole countrywide, but like Sikh motorcycle riders don't have to wear a helmet because they have to wear a turban. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, again, from the legal perspective,
everybody's got to wear a motorcycle helmet if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. But that's the thing. It's still intact. Right. Legally, everybody has to wear a motorcycle helmet. But I guess I've never heard of this before now.
Okay.
So I guess the Sikh men or Sikhs who ride motorcycles don't have to, I guess. But if they want to, they still can.
Yeah, right? I think I don't know
it's
if
not like
it's illegal if you can't wear a helmet. I don't know. Maybe it's not. If it's not, then the whole thing is moot.
I'm pretty sure I've seen like other dudes just wearing ball caps, riding motorcycles.
I don't think they're allowed to. I think you might get a fucking fine if they catch you doing that.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense that you'd wear that there should be a law, but I didn't know whether
it's something where it's like there's you'll throughout like these fucking just going forward, you're bound to get contradictions like these, right? Especially in this case, it's a law on the like road traffic safety versus rights for religious freedom. They fucking clash right there, right? And then people are just like, whoa, fuck, I don't want to. Basically
but then
flip a coin.
The thing is that the onus should be on the individuals then. Like if a Sikh person decides that I'm not going to wear the helmet, I'm going to wear the turban, and then if something happens to them, like an accident.
But wouldn't that be the same for everybody? Then what if
what you're saying
it's optional for everybody to wear a helmet?
Yeah.
Right?
I know you run
it kind
into
of becomes a mess.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like it is a big. The reason I'm getting at this, the reason why I bring these up is these points. They seem to be like they can be like very easy low hanging fruit controversies that could give rise to some really shitty movements that grow into something big.
Right, but these shitty movements are dumbfounded in North America, I think.
They are dumbfounded.
Like these, especially like the white nationalist movements, are dumbfounded in America.
But that doesn't stop them.
It makes no sense to say that this is our country.
Right, but that doesn't stop them
in
from
either
making
U.S. or Canada or Mexico. White people have no right to say this is our country. If we're talking about Europe, that makes I don't agree with them. I'm not saying I agree with them, but in some fucked up way, I guess they do have the argument that we've been here before. We've been here first.
Right. Okay.
But we've been here since the beginning because
Well, your point, your larger point is no one group has exclusive claim to here. What about like Native people, the indigenous?
Well,
I guess they're the only ones that can say that.
They have the original claim, but in the world that we live in right now, they're the nice way to put this is they're forced to share their country with others.
Yeah.
And you can't really just wipe off the map and be like,
But your larger point would be, like no one group of people has a fucking exclusive claim and
superiority.
Says everybody else is not welcome.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think fucking that should be the widespread.
Especially in these newer countries.
Hopefully.
Especially in these newer countries.
Yeah.
U.S., America, Canada, all these countries where 200 or 300 years of existence taken over from indigenous tribes, nobody has the right to say that, hey,
this is our country.
This is our land. You're not allowed here, or you shouldn't be here because you look different than us, or whatever.
Yeah, it is a very like primitive tribal thing, but it's like the main point is fucking it's all stupid. It's all wrong. That doesn't stop people from believing this, and that doesn't stop this from actually becoming a movement of people. Yeah, that in the U.S. is growing. In Brazil has already reached pretty high points. And if one could sympathize with the reasons why this is rising again, they'd point to like the past governments they've had was, I'm talking about Brazil here, to a lot of people they felt like, it kind of failed them. Like they see the crime on their streets, they see their living standards going down, nothing's really working out for them, and they're saying, fuck it, let's go with this guy that says all this crazy shit, but he's saying stuff that appeals to maybe like a majority of people there, maybe a majority of one class of people, but nonetheless that got him elected, right? In the U.S. it was the disenfranchised as well, like the fucking deplorables that Hillary called everybody, basically implying that these people are scum. Those guys are the guys that came up to say, no, fuck this, we've had enough, let's vote for this guy, and the big fuck you vote.
Yeah, no, it was a big fuck you vote. Yeah.
So,
but do you think these same people that did the fuck you vote right now, or this time around, would vote for him in 2020 again?
It's very possible.
He said all these rights I'm gonna do this for coal miners and this for that.
Yeah.
These people, he hasn't done anything. He hasn't promised everything he promised to the coal miners.
Of course not. Like this entire trade war.
He hasn't provided anything to them. So do you think they'd actually vote for him again?
Well, he's provided lip service, and he showed up at the rally saying, "I'm for you guys," and that's enough.
No,
he's done
sustainably. Have they?
Nothing. Even if it wasn't Trump, most other U.S. presidents, they haven't done really anything that's sustainable. It's always been a lot of it has been vote buying, right?
Yeah.
And with Trump, he's done enough actions where it's like, look, I stood up for your rights. Whereas I forced Ford to move back their factories here. I've gotten more coal jobs, even though nobody needs fucking coal mining jobs to be increasing. He did say, I've increased the amount of coal workers because I've restarted the coal, the coal plants and shit or whatever, right? Point is, he's done enough, I guess, to his base to make them satisfied in that, yeah, fucking Donald's our guy, right? He's come through for us. He's our president for us, the disenfranchised, the flyover American guys, right? That everybody, from the coast looks down on us, those liberal fucks, yada yada yada. But fucking, he guess who voted this guy into president, sort of deal. I think he's got enough of that heading into 2020, he's got this power. And I said it before that the Republican Party itself almost is a zombie party, because if you think about the traditional fucking conservatives like John McCain, Ted Cruz, Rubio, those guys, right? Like who the fuck's their power base? It's just a whole bunch of rich guys, and that's basically it. And maybe some hardcore conservatives, like like fucking Shapiro or someone.
Mm-hmm.
But most other people, and the whole reason they're in power is basically Trump. Trump brought in the numbers. His prestige among all the fucking disenfranchised of America, well, the working class flyover states, out and living in the boonies, these guys, he's their guy. He's the one bringing all them in. His prestige is probably the one thing that is bringing them to come even vote Republican. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, like, is it just because the country is going to shit? That's why this is rising in this sort of soil. This super right sort of movement. I'm not saying like fucking all Trump supporters are super right, but there's undeniable that there's a growing number of them that are coming up now, right? They're getting more influence, and it is on the back of a whole disenfranchised, like the people that were called deplorables that wanted to give a fuck you vote. It came on the back of that. Do you think that could happen everywhere? Do you think that can happen in Canada?
It could. These days anything can happen anywhere. Like
if the fucking gravy train stops.
I know there's people in Canada that love Trump.
Yeah, oh, definitely. There's a lot of people. There's not a lot. There's a sizable minority in Canada that wishes that we would just become like the 51st state of America.
Yeah, no, definitely. So it's not like it's a new idea. It's been there for a while, even before Trump.
So yeah,
even before Trump, there always has been a minority that's, like just a switch away from becoming American.
Yeah, they wish. And it's there. So it is kind of, it could be fertile ground for kind of the same movement you see in these other places.
It could be if we get some kind of Looney Tune figure like Trump leading the conservatives or something.
Yeah, I mean, our politics are a little bit more left than America. Like America's centers. Their center on the political spectrum is actually really kind of far right.
Far right, yeah.
Well, not far right, but right on
right.
The Canadian one.
Yeah, it's right on the Canadian one.
Like, for example, our federal national conservative party would be considered a little bit left in the American spectrum, right?
Yeah.
It would either be close or actually surpass the Democratic Party to a little left a little bit.
And that's why our left
is kind of weird, because if you think about liberals and NUP, they're not like left.
No.
Like you would think, oh, if your conservative party is really left, compared to the American one,
Mhm.
which isn't. It's just the American one that's really fucking skewed to the left. Internationally wise, if you compare with Britain and stuff, it's kind of the same.
Mhm.
But we don't have a really left party. There's no socialist. There's no like
No,
communist party
no.
of Canada. We got some liberals, NDP. They're a little bit just left to the conservatives, but not even that far. And I think they kind of go off on a tangent a little bit because they're really into fucking like.
No, but I was gonna say, since America's Republican Party is so far
It's very right.
right,
Oh yeah.
that's why when they look at our Liberal Party, it seems so far left
Yeah.
that they call us socialists. You know what I mean?
Which okay, I also want to get into this. Socialists. That's like the boogeyman in America.
Yeah. Do not be socialism is
Right. Until someone like Bernie Sanders came out, and now some young people are winning some seats in New York, like
Yeah.
that girl, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She ran on basically, fuck, I'm socialist, so what? And she won her seat.
Yeah.
Basically, she promised like Medicare for all, like
Yeah.
everybody should have free education, everybody should have free healthcare.
Yeah.
Why the fuck?
But
not?
that's a socialist idea in America.
Well, yeah.
Whereas here it's liberal.
Well, it is. It does count. It is considered a socialist idea. Like
Yeah.
it is a socialized medicine, socialized healthcare, but
But for them,
socialized,
it's like so far left. Like they
Right.
consider it like like the basically as far left as fucking left can get.
yeah, and it fucking scares them. And I think it has something to do with just they've been so anti-communist for so long, and they were like the other side of the Cold War, that communism, socialism is the enemy for them.
Mhm.
But like these aren't boogeyman terms, right? Like healthcare for all. That's a good
It's
thing.
a beautiful thing.
Oh yeah, this is one of the best things out there right now.
Dude, I'm just gonna say this. I know this has no point.
Granted, I know I have some friends that just because of their condition, it's not really considered like life-threatening or whatever, so they kind of fall through the cracks in
Yeah.
some systems. But system's not perfect, but it is so much better than what you if it wasn't there. It saves a shit ton of people.
Yeah, no.
And-
I mean, you can't have a perfect system.
Yeah,
there are
some
gonna
people are
be
gonna fall through the
cracks. There are gonna be people that get overlooked.
Right.
But
But it
Even-
would be nice. It would be great if somehow you could tweak it so then less people fall through the cracks. You can try to address those problems of guys that fall through the cracks.
yeah,
The solution isn't just to fucking burn the entire system down.
no. But still, we have. It's a much better system than what America has.
Oh,
for.
fucking by far. I got a lot of anecdotal stories about it, but like to anyone, like to anyone that would suffer something in the family, like your family member or whoever needs healthcare, you will fucking kiss the altar of free healthcare because it will save. Like you don't have to worry about them just dying because you don't have the money to pay for it.
Yeah, no.
They will be taken care of.
They will be taken care of
by the state.
Like fucking like anything. Like you can. Like, I just thinking about Americans and how much people who have kind of medical issues in their families and stuff, how stressed they must be compared to Canadian families with those same issues. It's just mind-boggling. Like the fact that like something as simple as like like freaking a kidney removal or a kidney transplant, or something like that.
Yeah.
Is
It would cost you like your house.
yeah, and here if you need it,
you're on
have
a
it.
list, but
You're on a list.
if they get it, if you need life-saving surgery.
Even while you're on the list, all the dialysis treatments and everything you need are
it's
taken care
taken
of.
care
You're
of.
not paying for
It
that.
is taken care of by the state. Yeah.
You're not paying for that.
It is a beautiful thing, and it is a thing where America. I always kind of shit on them, but this is a really big problem because they're not in the mindset where it's like, you have a collective responsibility to as a country, as a part of a country, to take care of, people as a country. They don't have that. It's more like, why should I pay for some fucking bum that doesn't work? Why should I pay for his either welfare or health care, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? I made it big off of my own merit and abilities. Why do I even have to come close to sharing the wealth?
See, that's one of the fuck ups of the capitalistic
Oh,
ideology.
fuck, yeah.
That because capitalistic, you're trained to think I'm in it for myself.
Yeah.
Money wise.
Yeah.
But then that belief ideology scatters into the rest of your existence.
Yeah.
So when it comes to healthcare, like, no, I'm taking care of my healthcare. The others can take care of their own health.
Yeah, and there's no like there's
When
no
it
like
comes to food,
practical middle ground.
when it comes to food, I take care of my food. Well, if you're
Right.
hungry, fuck what's not my
Right.
problem.
And there's no, and to them, there's no. It seems like there's no. There, a lot of people, especially really die hard, you know, right? Like capitalism forever. Fuck this. Fuck these other bums that want to take my money. That guy. The mindset is like, it's worshipping an economic system as if it were a religion, right? Like, yeah, you can. Capitalism is pretty selfish and has produced a lot of heinous stuff. But capitalism also, on the flip side, you know, we gotta acknowledge, you know, like the wealth is created, the wealth generation, the allocation of like consumer, I guess, the consumer light industry products, whatever. You know, it has raised some people to be better off, of course.
Oh no.
But we can't just say that is the system. That is the only thing I believe in. Everything else is fucking bunk. You can't say that when the deficits are really clear. Like you get fucking the richest 1% that have everything, and then everybody else just basically eating on crumbs and surviving. And to have that mindset where it's like, yeah, this is perfect, and fuck everyone else, I think that's gonna cause you a lot of troubles going into the future.
I'm not trying to shit on capitalism. What I mean is capitalism works as long as you use that within the means of making money. If you use the good stuff, if you use it for making money, hey, I'm gonna use this ideology of capitalism to make money, to make a business, to make tons of cash. But if you let that ideology trickle into every other aspect of society, that's when you're over.
Yeah, exactly. It's good for like coming up with the needs of the consumer and coming up with the products to meet those needs. It is good for that.
It's good for staying competitive
for now.
in a market. It's good for, you know, ensuring consumers are taken care of.
Yeah, it's good for now, definitely.
It's good for making money, simple.
But it's not, especially if it's healthcare, that it falls flat on its face.
Yeah.
Because I think I had this debate with some friends of mine a while back, and basically the whole argument was, the American system's good, it just needs some tweaking. As an insurance scheme, the whole system America has right now is an insurance scheme, and their whole big fucking thing about it was all, you know, single payer, trying to go into single payer healthcare to try to meet the needs, but they framed it from the perspective of insurance. My whole argument about that was healthcare. You can't treat it as insurance, right? Like life-saving care. You gotta treat it as a public good, like how you treat the police, ambulance, firefighters, right? You don't buy fire insurance for the firefighters to come and put out a fire, right? You don't buy police insurance. And, you know, like, we don't live in this ANCAP society where in the previous podcast, it's like, oh, you have to be the gold plan member to get, like, a police response to your house. You got to put in a quarter for the siren to run. You got to put in a quarter for the fire hose to actually give you water, and it's, like, metered by the second. Like 50 cents a second for each gallon of water. Yeah. It's not like that, right? No. Fucking, it's a public service.
It's a public
service. It comes
to
you. Healthcare has to be a public service because I basically said, if you think about it, in a capitalist market, you know, you got supply and demand. You can find the right price within the intersection curves, right? Enough supply, enough demand. Boom, you got a price. You got a fair price, right? Someone's not charging a fair price, you go to the next competitor. That's capitalism 101, basically, right? Market, fucking, you go by the market. How the fuck do you go by the market in healthcare? If it's something like a family member needs this treatment to survive, what price are you willing to pay? At that point, are you going to say, oh, fuck, nah, I'm going to haggle, I'm going to wait until something better comes around? That doesn't work. There is no fair price point. There's no possible way you can have any sort of competition.
You can't go shopping around in that.
You can't shop. That's the whole fucking deal. Because you shop around, you have a price in mind of what you're willing to pay for a product, right?
If you want to buy a car, you can shop around. If you want to buy clothes, you can shop around.
Yeah.
But healthcare,
buy a life, basically.
You can't shop around.
Because what is it? Like, what price do you put? You can't put a price on it. Yeah. It's everything you have. Like, most people would give everything they have to save their kids, right? If it turned out that they have some really fucked up, incurable terminal disease, you can see a whole bunch of parents just empty everything into giving them life-saving drugs or treatment.
Yeah.
Everything.
But they shouldn't have to.
Right. And that's the thing. Like, you can't put a price on it. You can't fucking match that as a
So why
as a product.
Why
as a health insurance product? You know, and that's why it's like the whole philosophy behind that is really going in the wrong direction. You know, they're giving out, they're trying. You know, one of the I remember in 2016 when the whole Republican argument was like they hated Obamacare because, hey, you got to go back to competition for your health insurance companies to choose your health insurance, the proper health insurance for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And at a deeper level, that goes into the whole fucking dynamic of, okay, well, you got to shop around for the best price you think your life is worth, basically. As an insurance policy, you're shopping around for that kind of the best deal. When it's how can you shop for something for a deal if it's on something that you can't put a price on?
No.
Right?
It's glaringly stupid to people outside looking in.
Yeah.
But for the Americans, it seems like it's like, oh no, this is the only way it can be. Like,
right.
They don't even look around for any other options. It's not like.
But even okay, so for people that are in proponent of private healthcare, there's some valid arguments for it sometimes. Sometimes where it's like, the more money you pay, the better care you give, right? Some people, they might have that argument, but to have that kind of system, a lot more people basically get wrecked, and eventually you yourself, when it comes time that you need that care at the end of your life, it does come around to bite everybody in the ass.
But that's not necessarily true either, that the more you pay, the better service you get. How many people have gone overseas to get better treatment somewhere else for so much money and then come back with some other disease or something else because the procedure wasn't done properly, or it wasn't, like, there's no 100% guarantee.
Well, in some cases, like they would go to these places, they would pay top dollar to get the best treatment from the best surgeon for whatever, right? And yeah, if you're rich, money's not a problem. That's great.
That's if you're rich. That's a big.
But you shouldn't have that. You can't have that as a whole policy for your entire country, for everybody in your country.
Unless everybody in the fucking country is making $500,000 a year or something minimum, then you could think about that.
Well, you could have that in Zimbabwe. Everybody's making billions a year, just due to inflation, right?
No, but I mean, like,
everybody's rich enough to afford it.
Yeah.
If every single person in your country is rich enough to afford it, maybe.
Yeah. But in a country which there's not many countries where everybody's rich.
No. No, there seems to be 0 countries on earth where everybody's rich. Let's talk about just future around the world, future of Canada. And, like, these midterm elections, do you think, in a way, I think it does affect us in a bit. American election 2020 will affect us a lot, us being the neighbor to them. And being very close.
And before that, we have our own elections coming up in 2019.
Yeah. And you got to see how that turns out, right? So, I mean, like, there's a sort of like a rub-off effect, it seems. Because something that happens in America, usually it kind of finds its way into Canada somehow. By fucking osmosis.
It does.
What do you think the future of Canada kind of looks like?
It does, but I think Canada, no matter what, still maintains its own identity and integrity.
Based on what?
Based on the fact that our voting system is different. Based on...
But it is not... It is different. But at the same time, it is not solving problems, and it is also kind of not being effective at addressing problems and the changes that we actually need, that need corrections, the policies, the directions that need corrections. It's not addressing those.
Which directions?
All right, so in the broad spectrum of things, like, the way I see it, we're a little bit too dependent on the U.S. and the way our economies run. especially in regards to natural resources and oil and everything. We have to cater to the market. There's no way of diversifying from that, and regardless of which political party is in power, the agenda is not really the future, as in long-term future horizon of the country, but it is in identity and social politics, as in feminism, gender identification, stuff like that, societal, like mainstream pop societal kind of things that everybody's busying themselves with. No one's thinking about what happens when we hit the point where economic engines of this country stall. What happens when petroleum reaches peak production, and by that definition, it's going down.
It's already going down.
Right. What happens when we reach a future where it's post-petroleum run future?
Post-petroleum based.
There's a big swath of Western Canada and Central Canada that literally that is the lifeblood of how people.
It is the lifeblood.
Live.
It is the lifeblood. But we are working on alternative industries, alternative energies, and I think Canada has a better handle on the future and a better acceptance of the fact that we might have to move away from petroleum than America does.
Of course, but America's a fucking basket case on this, right? You can't compare yourself to like the dumbest kid in the class and think that you're passing, right?
No, but your question was our dependency on America,
right?
So
dependency as in like we sell basically all the crude oil produced to America to get refined.
Right.
We don't diversify. We don't sell to other markets, and it's at a bargain price.
We could. This could be an opportunity considering Trump wants to disband NAFTA or whatever.
Yeah, but he did the whole USMC, right? The whole USMC trade deal now. United States, Mexico, and Canada thing that's supposed to replace NAFTA, and also no political parties in they've already started their campaign ads, haven't they? Or are they
Who?
Close to like our political parties, Canadian
starting their campaign for federal?
Yeah.
No,
they haven't. Okay, so
ours aren't that long. They don't start that.
Right, but I've not heard anybody raise up that issue of just like energy dependency and stuff like that, and also a long-term horizon.
I think you'll start hearing it soon because ours are elections set for October 2019. I think.
Right, but okay.
So come summer.
I'm actually gonna say they're not gonna talk about. They're not gonna touch on shit like this, and if they do, they're not gonna do anything once they get into office.
I think they will touch on stuff, and I think they will once they get into office.
Like what? What is the
focus on alternative energies?
Well, what is that?
Solar, hydro, wind.
But solar, hydro, wind will not make up the shortfall of petroleum going away. Like petroleum and coal. And petroleum, I also mean natural gas products as well.
Mm-hmm.
That basically runs the whole country's run on that.
Yeah.
Petroleum and natural gas, like there's no amount of solar, hydro, and most of the renewables that can take up the majority slack. I mean, if you were going to implement a program like that, it would have to come. It would be very expensive. It has to be long term, and it will be very slow, just to displace the numbers of what we have right now running the economy on.
It will be slow, but you have to start somewhere.
Right, but see why I'm concerned is the countries that do have the long-term plan, they've already set it in motion like 5 years ago, 10 years ago. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
We don't have something like that, and also it's a very partisan issue as well. Like depending on which political party you come into power, they have a different take on it, and they will dismantle the other party's platform if it does touch on this issue.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean by like our system is kind of will not address the long term, like the really important stuff.
I think we are working towards beginning to address the long term stuff. That's the longer way of answering your question. I think in the coming years we'll get smarter. Basically.
Okay, well, because there's a lot riding on this. Because if we don't, that is one of the ways I think we start to look more like America. And Brazil.
No, and that's why I'm saying I have hope that we will. And I think we will. The way you don't.
I have no hope on that. Because everybody is just too focused on way too short-term stuff. And the things that are long-term that they are really working on, it's not substantial. It's not like important issues at all. And then also there's no political will. Like none of them have like the balls to go against something popular, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of these policies, they kind of need some guys with balls that are willing to take the fall on the sword for coming out with something that is unpopular now, but long term is very far reaching and is very important, right? None of these people, if you look at Scheer, Trudeau, who's the NDP guy again? What's his name? Fuck. That guy.
The guy.
That guy. All right.
Speaking of Trudeau,
they don't have anything.
What do you think Trudeau's chances of winning in 2019?
That's actually pretty hard to call. Like, I'm actually more comfortable saying Trump would have a better chance than Trudeau coming in. I don't know. Like, I haven't been. Oh, yeah, well, part of it is because I haven't been having my finger on the pulse of the countries.
Yeah.
Right now, because it's kind of.
I think he has a decent enough chance.
Yeah, like, the Liberal Party, right?
Yeah. Yeah, the Liberal Party. I mean, but if it's going to be the Liberal Party, most likely it'll be him.
NDP leader, his name's Jagmeet Singh.
Yeah, Jagmeet Singh.
Fuck, I forgot his name. Anyways, yeah. So you think Liberals got a good shot at winning it?
I think so. And I think if he does win it next year, or the Liberals win it next year, then this term is their like settling in term. If they win the next term, then they will come up with the unconventional ideas but for long term benefit.
I don't think so. Okay, I don't think so. I don't think even if they won the next two elections, they would do something like that. And I definitely don't think
they would be half.
I don't even think they'll even get to that point because they might get voted out next election or next election. I think
next election, I don't know, and the one after that we'll see when we get to that. But the next election, I think Trudeau or the Liberals have a decent enough chance, and
I think it's way too much of a knife edge. I think they're gonna be so concerned with just surviving these cycles that it's just going to be the same shit. And they're going to pick some low-hanging fruit. They're going to pick some easy ones to get at.
Well, you got to pick some easy ones in order to swallow the longer, harder ones.
Yes, of course.
That sounded
You meant that everywhere. Long, sloppy, harder ones.
No, but I think if Liberals win in 2019, then you'll see some unconventional or, ideas that look like shit right now.
Really, I don't even think it's in them. Like, it's not even part of the party platforms. No one's ever even raised the issue. Even the academics, mostly, like the advisors, they don't really talk about a lot of this stuff. And it is just kind of flying by the seat of their pants. Which they don't, like, when was the last time? Okay, what is, like, the 10-year plan for Canada? What is the 20-year plan? All the way up to the 50-year plan. Some countries have this.
Yes.
Going into the next century. I don't think we actually have one. And if we do, unless it's something that is like written up as like a fucking fantasy novel, I don't think any of the parties have a concrete one. I know that NDP has some like bullshit manifesto where it's like, oh, we want to get rid of all fucking carbon emitting whatever sources by whatever year, but even that I think is a really short time horizon that they put on. Like, it's not long term at all. Long term for them is like more than 5 years, I guess.
Yeah.
What, right?
But I think, I don't know.
This is why I'm afraid of something that that Canada will start to get a lot of fucking really hard right populist movements, because we've already started people asking around like, hey, fucking Canadian values, like you should be proud to be Canadian, you know, uh, not in like like the good, like, hey, you should be proud to be Canadian, what, like proud to be Canadian, like fucking your race is Canadian.
Yeah.
No,
that is popping up now.
It is popping up, and there's a reason for it too. Like, we're not immune to the fucking effects of the economic downturn and shit like that. Long-term prospects looking bad, and nobody's coming out with any kind of reassurances, and everybody's just focusing on stuff that really kind of either doesn't matter or it's kind of riling up your opposing sides, right? Like, one of the big things that led up to Trump was the whole SJW, colleges, campuses, riot, like fucking protesting, and it became this stupid like free speech versus whatever, versus what do you even fucking call it? Like, really, I don't know. I know fucking the morons call it like cultural Marxism, like fucking Peterson and those guys, but because they don't know what the fuck Marxism is, but that's what they call it. That's the label that they gave it, like a really out of control SJW type. That led to Trump in a way.
Yeah. I don't know, honestly. The upcoming, like the near future, is pretty undeterminable right now. Like,
yeah, of course. Like, we can't.
No, like 50 years ago, or even 30 years ago, there was some kind of trend, some kind of idea of where we're going. But right now, everything is changing way too fast. Technology, politics, landscape.
Yeah, it's not.
Everything is just.
We can't do really shit all about it, but the people in charge of the country have to have a plan, regardless of how fast it's moving. They gotta have some way of dealing with it, right? The next one would be automation and AI. That's coming, right? Who in Canada has a fucking plan to even deal with that? Like, nobody, right? We're too busy dealing with, fucking. What is it? What's the new fad that we're dealing with right now? I don't even know.
I don't know. I have to look into this stuff. No, I need to go find, see if I can find anywhere.
Yeah, because the next biggest thing is by far, like AI, climate, obviously, right? Climate AI
is big everywhere.
Yeah.
And AI.
Those are the big things that everybody should be worrying about.
I guess security with all this.
Security has always been there, though, right?
No, well, more like online security.
Oh yeah,
with
cybersecurity.
Cybersecurity. Sorry, yeah, with Facebook and exactly how much.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Private information.
Private information. How much data of yours do they have in Facebook, Instagram,
Yeah.
all these kind of Google. How much do they actually have on you?
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
And there's more people saying now that like your information is probably like the next big valuable commodity. Like how.
It already is. What didn't Trump sell his campaign donors list to some? There was something about that.
At certain degrees, but like your information that you get that Facebook or Google has on you.
Yeah.
People are saying that's a commodity. That's something worthwhile to these companies, and it certainly is worthwhile if you're in the work of AI development, because one of the fuel that AI needs is big data on everybody, for them to test their iterations and learn. For fucking machine learning, they need
for AI to actually become AI.
Yeah, well, to get to even in the development phase, when the research phase, AI needs the competitive countries like China and America. They're very competitive. They're in the fucking race because they have huge populations, huge markets, huge data to pull from.
Yeah.
Especially China, they have centralized data to pull from for AI development, right? Of citizens, like your buying habits, your tendencies, your thoughts, and whatever. This is all AI fuel, and some people are saying, like that is a commodity that should be worth something. Right now, you're giving it for free to all these private companies. Google's getting all of it for free. Facebook gets it all for free. All it is you make an account, You click accept on the terms and conditions. Boom, they can use everything that they can mine about you for free for them.
For free.
But it's completely. It's like giving away gas for free, oil for free.
Yeah.
You know, like, you think it will become something like that? Like, you're gonna, in the future, you might charge somebody for using your information. Like, if Facebook uses your information, they gotta pay you a royalty.
It could happen. It could happen if, first of all, if we ever allow that to happen, that the sale or your private information to be used as a commodity. I mean, it is a commodity right now.
It might protect you better, right? Because right now, they just use it without you knowing, or even without your explicit consent. They just use it anyways.
Yeah.
You know, they track what you do.
It could be better if
all the ads are targeted to you, right?
If you had the right to be like, no, Facebook, you owe me this much.
Yeah.
If you're gonna,
right? Like, well, maybe that could be a future of, information, like you said, like not just security, but just the value, the commoditization, even maybe nationalize fucking your data. All right, so before we fucking wrap this up, let's talk about what do you think the world would look like in the upcoming future? A lot of shit's happening all over the world.
What do you mean, 10 years or 20 years, 50 years?
Forget about the timeline. Like, well, I guess you can give a prediction to your future or whatever, or just what you feel right now, or what
I think the world
what you see. And I'm talking like everywhere, like Middle East, Africa, Asia.
I think the world will eventually, it's going to equalize till we're just like one big fucking country.
Yeah, like a global government.
Yeah.
You think it'd be something like under the UN, or one country will just conquer every other country?
I think it'll be, again, I'm going to go back to Futurama on this. It'll be president of the earth.
Really? How would they get to that part?
But see, there's way too much. That's a huge question, because for Earth to be one government, that would imply that there's other governments out there. That would imply that we have extraterrestrial communication, or
not necessarily. I mean, if the world
not necessarily, but
under one, that's just usually like that can come about without an extraneous threat. I think, yeah, your point is if we were facing an alien threat, yeah, we'd unite much more easily. It'd be fucking natural, but I could see it.
No, I'm saying we're moving towards that, but it won't actually be complete until we get an external threat.
So you're saying like humanity would never willingly...
I think we'd move toward that in terms of a society, or in terms of technology and stuff like that, but that would become like a global kind of village thing.
Yeah,
but
I can see your point.
Governments would still be separate, unless there would be an external threat.
I'm in agreement with you that unless there's something that is so urgent, like a crisis that needs everybody to unite under one banner.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think still exercise. Everybody wants to exercise their own sovereignty in their own country. They're not likely to give that shit
unless
up.
They're absolutely fucking forced to.
Unless it's that way. What I see in the future coming up is we're entering into Cold War 2.0. And what I mean is, after the Cold War is U.S. versus USSR, communism versus capitalism, yada yada yada. You basically pick your camp, basically, right? Between these two sides, left and right, blue and red.
Yeah.
That kind of ended, and the U.S. was like the sole superpower after the USSR collapsed, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think we're entering into Cold War 2.0, where the near pure adversary of the U.S. is coming up, and I don't even think it's going to be one. The obvious one here, implication, is China. China's the next country that's going to compete with them, it's going that way.
It's already happening.
It's already happening, and it's also the U.S. has been the ones to fire the first rounds of this antagonization. That kind of happened before Trump, but now it's the trade war is going on, right? The world is looking like, oh shit, what is happening? This whole global order, this whole globalization drive that we're having, what's going on with that now? And China is saying they want to pick up the mantle. The U.S. is looking inwards. The conditions are kind of ripe right now for it to kind of change from the U.S. runs the shit on everything to now it's back to some kind of near peer competitor, but since it's the U.S. and they're very oddly paranoid against any other country that comes close to them, it's not going to be a friendly, competitive, or cooperative sort of nature. It's going to go back to a very adversarial Cold War scenario.
Yeah.
And instead of ideology, it will be strictly based on just what country you are.
Well, I mean, given that theory, basically, I think if that were to happen, we'd just end up with
multipolar world.
Yeah,
like I think so too.
Like it'll be country conglomerates.
Yeah,
right?
I think I said this before in the previous podcast. Yeah, I think it's moving towards multipolar.
So like North America would be just like one.
Well, it's kind of even. Yeah,
No, I'm just saying. For example,
yeah.
It doesn't have to be North America.
It's kind of delicate because I don't think Canada would be wise to just fucking hook yourself up to the US.
No, that's completely true. No, like there would be some separation, but I don't know. Maybe U.S. and UK might end up.
Well, obviously, like the NATO countries, they would have that cling to this military alliance.
Yeah.
As sort of like a block against whatever the adversary is, but increasingly, like China is starting to make their partnerships and blocks around the world too.
Yeah.
It's not a military block.
No,
per se.
more economic.
It's an economic trade block, which I would argue is actually a more sustainable block because everybody has mutual interests and everybody wants that sort of deal because they have, like I said, interests. Their needs are met. And they want to get into something like that.
Doesn't China even have something with Pakistan or something now? CPAC or whatever it was?
Yeah, CPAC is it's the economic cooperation between China and Pakistan, and it has everything to do with like the fucking.
It gives China
the Wakhan corridor into Gwadar port.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And Pakistan and China are really close.
Yeah.
Geopolitically, and even the populations are really close to each other too.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of a no-brainer scenario where China's got a lot of excess capacity, industrial capacity, lots of money to loan out. Pakistan is in need of infrastructure investment in general, but infrastructure for sure creates some of that wealth generating pathways.
Yeah.
That people want, that can give you.
And in return for that, they're giving the.
Well, it's a connectivity of the whole of Asia, right? Basically, that's the grand plan, and that is a much more like popular and much more attractive plan than the old school Cold War NATO alliance, right? And I'm seeing Russia, I'm seeing Iran, I'm seeing most of these countries that the U.S. is fucking shunning to come into this and embracing this.
To work. That will end up as a block on its own. Basically.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be a tug of war for Europe as well because Europe does want to get into this. There's Germany and especially Greece has that port that's kind of like had huge Chinese investments into it that kind of saved it when they were dying under austerity, right? And then Germany is getting into this One Belt Road initiative, like linking up overland Asia rail routes to Germany. UK wants to get on this. I mean, like I see a tug of war happening in Europe between traditional alliances to the U.S. and also now their economic interests and the future connectivity and what they see as the future wealth and value that can come from partnership with China.
But see, this is the thing. We end up back at America. Like, if they were to think of the future right now, they're going towards a more unstable future. America.
They are, definitely. They are pretty much...
If they stay on this track of antagonizing China and everything,
they're
staying... If they stay this course, then Trump isn't making America great again. Trump is making America...
Of course,
unstable.
But remember, Trump is not a fucking statesman or a strategist. This stuff is all over his head. He doesn't care about this shit. He just wants to be fucking, you know what, I'm going to be Trump president, and I'm going to make a mark in the U.S. Everybody's going to look at me. I'm going to be everybody's favorite president. You know, fucking, that's what he wants, right? He's not thinking long term. And I would argue the American in general, the politicians are not thinking long term. Forget about Trump. Their fucking ruling class is not thinking that long term either. They're thinking, adversary. Who's gonna fucking who's coming stepping up next to us? We're gonna fucking fight them or whatever, right? But it also goes hand in hand with this really right, far right populism that is rising in these countries. That is starting to look like, fuck, I don't know, say like Mussolini's Italy or something, when they came up like, we used to be great, we can be great again. This is what we have to do. We have to kick out, we have to fucking purge the undesirables. We gotta make our country for us, and we have to make a supranational identity that everybody will follow, and that would be this, like the supreme thing that everybody gives their lives for, the state or the race.
Yeah.
That's got, see it, like these little buds of that are coming up now, and it just gets worse because the country is it's going into decline, and people feel like their backs are against the wall, so they turn to this stuff.
Yeah, but then this is just a band-aid solution, or it's not even a solution. It's just a fucking dirty.
You know what it
Band-Aid.
is? It's the fucking morphine, right? It's addictive.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
very attractive and very addictive.
Just another shot.
And you get hooked on it, and it's very hard for you to get off it once you get really deep into it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
then you're a fucking addict walking around.
And I think that's one of the destabilizing factors around the world, because most of these governments, most of these Western countries are starting to get this. Multicultural countries are starting to have these things pop up, these movements pop up, and it's only going to get worse because Western multicultural countries used to be the countries in the world.
Yeah.
Now they're having to see that situation change.
But most Western countries would fall under the multicultural status.
Yeah.
So shouldn't it be time now for them to understand that this is the way of life?
No, we're going back. We're having the big debate right now is about multiculturalism.
No, but that's what I mean. Like, if it was only one or two Western countries that are multicultural, the rest were like predominantly white or whatever.
Yeah.
Then you could be like, okay, hey, but most Western countries are multicultural. If not, majority, there's still elements of multiculturalism in there. At least anywhere, any Western country has to be at least 20-30%, non-white.
Yeah, well, of course. I mean, the whole point is like the alarming thing is multicultural countries are having this problem being dragged up. Like, they're saying, fucking, is multiculturalism the way to go, or is it like some kind of nativist, populist,
and then again,
one tribe, one ethnicity, one super state movement?
Back to my original comment that most of these countries have no right to go back to a natural or
who's to argue with them? Like, if you say, you have no right to it, so what does that even mean? Is that going to stop them?
It's not going to stop them, but that's just my point of view there. That like they have no right. You stole these countries from.
Yeah, of course,
from the actual people who owned them, if anybody owned them.
Right, but you like, would it matter to these guys?
I know it wouldn't matter, but like
guy.
it's kind of stupid to realize that so many Western countries or majority of Western countries are multicultural, but we can't get over this fact that we are multicultural.
Right. It is. It seems to be coming back to it.
It's fucking stupid. Like,
that's the thing that can just fucking annihilate the whole endeavor.
It's a fact. It's there. It's in front of your eyes.
Right.
You're multicultural, so you just have to accept that fact. That's all. Like, why fight it? If you fight it, you're just creating more shit for yourself and for others.
Yeah, but they don't see it. They're gonna fight it.
No, I know.
So what can be done? What is to be done?
That's too big of
Nothing.
a question for this room. I don't know what could be done.
I think I guess the midterm elections coming up will be kind of like one of those historical indicators. One of them.
I mean, the only thing that could be done is everybody look towards their common decency, rather than looking at hate and being like looking at differences. Just accept the differences.
I think
that's all you can do as an individual.
I think going forward, a lot of people are going to have to get realistic with this whole sacred idea of like democracy and just fucking democracy and voting for your leader and representatives. And a lot of it, this is going to probably be the most very contentious thing, but it's not producing. It is not designed to produce solutions. It's just designed to keep, it's just designed to keep everybody either, fucking content or, like to keep, I guess one rule from going too far. It's meant to kick out the bums, they say, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not really meant to solve problems. And now we got a lot of problems, and it's proving that it's almost impossible to solve just by fucking voting in your leader, because all it is just pandering to get those votes.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, so the reason I say this is, and I'm going to give a very specific kind of analogy.
Mm-hmm.
Not even an analogy, it's just a real life scenario. I don't know if I ever gave this example before. You can probably remind me if I did. Did I ever give this example before of Singapore and their ethnic groups? Did I ever talk about that before on the podcast?
I think you did.
All right.
I think you did.
So there's a whole bunch of things to be said about that. Basically, Lee Kuan Yew, the leader of Singapore back then, forced all the ethnicities to live with each other in each other's neighborhoods. No segregation, right?
Yeah.
A lot of Asian, some other countries, China has the whole policy where you cannot discriminate against any ethnic minority whatsoever, right? And they give preferential policies to ethnic minorities. They don't give preferential policies to the majority Han Chinese. That's a problem in itself. But basically, the big one overriding deal between and similarity between them is like they put their foot down on these kind of nonsense deals like discrimination, ethnic problems, any kind of discrimination of another racial or ethnic group, any kind of like some budding up nationalism where you want the fucking state to cleanse all the undesirables and only have your race and your tribe there.
Mm-hmm.
They put that shit down.
Yeah. And
it is not something to be voted on. It's a firm no. You cannot fucking do this.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure in the future that's one of the only things that is gonna stop this nonsense.
Yeah.
But Western countries are completely ill-equipped and not prepared and don't have the stomach nor the experience on how to do this wisely without looking like some fucking dictatorial Hitlerish fool.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that they have to deal with, that nothing is perfect. You got to change a lot of shit. And that includes democracy as well. And that probably, I guess, you got anything else, Dad? You got the final word.
I get the final word. I don't know. We'll see what happens, man. I have no idea.
All right, man. We'll see what the midterm elections are like.
Yeah.
All right. And hopefully Jason returns to us next week.
Yeah.
Undefiled from his
undefiled,
kidnapping.
yes. Undefiled. We don't want him filed. We want him
we don't want him filed.
We don't want
we want him filed. We don't want him defiled.
Defiled.
That is correct. All right. This was Verbal Laxative.
All right. See you guys.
See you.